Greetings, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. How could the United States of America and Great Britain be descendants of the ancient house of Israel? This is a provocative question if you have never heard it before, but I'd like to answer it on today's program. As you will recall, Abraham received unconditional blessings from God because he was unconditionally obedient to him. And it was told him by God that he would become the father of many nations and that many kings would come out of his loins. Now, God is not a liar, and so he had to fulfill that promise somehow before the return of Jesus Christ. Later, those same blessings and promises were given to Abraham's descendants, Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel, and he passed them on to his son Joseph in Egypt, and specifically to Joseph's sons Ephraim and Manasseh, saying that Ephraim would become a commonwealth or a multitude or a company of nations, and Manasseh would become a great nation. Now, my friends, those prophecies have never been fulfilled in ancient times. The house of Israel and even the house of Judah never became a commonwealth of nations, and Ephraim and Manasseh ended up in the house of Israel. You will recall that under the son of King Solomon, the nation split. And so Ephraim and Manasseh became part of the house of Israel, and they never became a great nation and a company of nations within the house of Israel. But God still had to fulfill that promise, didn't he? It is interesting, perhaps, that when you think in terms of what was fulfilled and what wasn't fulfilled, that you find a prophecy regarding another tribe, another son of Jacob, with the name of Zebulun. And in the book of Genesis, it says that Zebulun would be a nation situated at a harbor or a haven, and he would rule from there. Now, if you look at a Bible map, when the Israelites entered the promised land and then the land was divided, Zebulun was never anywhere near close to an ocean. They were right smack in the middle, inland, between other tribes. And so therefore that prophecy wasn't fulfilled in ancient times and still had to be fulfilled subsequently. And archaeological records show that the tribe of Zebulun migrated to northwestern Europe and settled in the Netherlands, where they are still today. But when it comes to Ephraim and Manasseh, we find that after the Assyrians had taken the house of Israel captive, long before the house of Judah was taken captive by the Babylonians, they ultimately were released and migrated to northwestern Europe. And Ephraim and Manasseh then migrated further to Ireland, and then from there on to Scotland and the British Isles and England, and then of course when it came to Manasseh, to the United States of America. Did you know that the former mayor of New York, Ed Koch, at one time, according to an article by the U.S. News and World Report, stated that we the Jews believe that the lost 10 tribes of the house of Israel migrated and settled in Ireland. Now, as I have shown you on a previous program, it was the prophet Jeremiah who took the daughters of the last king over the house of Judah, Zedekiah, when they were captured by the Babylonians, and he took them and brought them to Ireland. And there, one of the daughters married the king of Ireland and thereby started to rule over the people of Ireland, fulfilling a promise which God had made to King David, telling him that David would never lack a person sitting on the throne of David, ruling over Israel. Now, that could have been any tribe. In this particular case, it was the nations of Ephraim and Manasseh. This king of Ireland and the daughter of Zedekiah ruled over. And then the throne was later transferred to Scotland and then to England, where it is still today. Now, but let me ask you a question again, my friends, and that is, how could the United States of America and Great Britain be descendants of the ancient house of Israel? Didn't God bring the Israelites into the promised land? Oh, yes, he did. But he didn't fulfill all the blessings which he had given to Abraham and later to Isaac and Jacob and Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh. And the reason was that Israel was not obedient to him. When you go back to a record in the book of Numbers, you will find that Moses sent spies into the promised land, and they spied out the promised land for 40 days. And then they came back and they gave an evil report over the land, and so the people wouldn't want to go into the promised land. And God was very angry with them, and he said, because you have spied out the land for 40 days, I withhold my blessings of bringing you into the promised land for 40 years, showing a principle that a day applies to a year and can be looked upon as a year in prophetic terms. And so the Israelites had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years before they were able, under Joshua, to enter the promised land. And so this principle can be seen throughout the Bible. And we find a prophecy in the book of Genesis that God said to the Israelites that after I have brought you into the promised land, if you then will commence and also go on to disobeying me, I will bring you into the slavery, and then it will take a while, in effect 2,520 years, until I will then bring you into the possession of the blessings which I had promised to Abraham and his descendants. And that is exactly what happened. If you think in terms of when Israel went into slavery under the Assyrians, and you add that number of years, you come to about 1800. And it is no coincidence that by that time, the United States of America began to become a very powerful world-ruling nation. You think of the Louisiana Purchase, which happened in 1806. And of course the British Empire and the British Commonwealth became very powerful and remain to be powerful. But God also said that if you continue to disobey me, then I will have to withhold and take away those blessings from you again. See, the American and British people are in no way superior to others. And I like to just add that there is a movement called the British Israelism. And they will state some of the facts, which I have pointed out today, and which I have pointed out in previous programs. But then they misapply those facts, and they make it a racial concept, and saying that the white race of the British and the American people are superior over other races. That is totally unbiblical and abominable. In fact, the Bible has made it very clear that the peoples of the United States of America and Great Britain only have inherited the blessings because of the unconditional obedience of Abraham. That is the only reason. And because he made a promise to Abraham, which he had to fulfill. But God is also saying, if you guys continue to disobey me as the Israelites in ancient times have disobeyed me, I will do exactly the same to you as I have done to the ancient Israelites. That is, I will also bring you back into slavery, and you will be defeated by a foreign power in war. And let me tell you, my friends, we are fast approaching this time. Unless we are collectively in a process of repenting from the way we are doing and we are living, we will in a few years from now experience those terrible curses to be brought upon us. Not because we are such a righteous nation, but God calls us in the book of Jeremiah and Isaiah an ungodly nation. Now I have shown you some more facts today proving to you that the United States of America and Great Britain are in fact the descendants of the ancient house of Israel, at least of some of the tribes. But with knowledge comes responsibility, and it also comes a warning that we will lose those blessings which God Almighty has given us if we continue to disobey him in the way we are doing. If you want to learn more about the startling facts and also the biblical prophecies about our peoples today, I'd like to encourage you to read this free booklet, The Fall and Rise of Britain and America. The Fall and Rise of Britain and America. It explains in much more detail some of the things which I was alluding to today. So thanks very much for watching. Until next time, this is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.